Hey, everybody. I'm Tom Quaintance. I'm producing artistic director of Virginia Stage Company, and it's my very great pleasure to welcome part of the cast, the director of Cat in a Hot Tin Roof. We were just about to go into rehearsal when everything shut down a year ago. I mean, literally everybody was getting on a plane on the Monday to start rehearsal on Tuesday, and we made the call on Sunday that we were not going to be able to. And I was looking through emails, Khanisha, and on the Thursday before that, I sent you an email saying, we're still going ahead as planned. We think this is going to be just a couple weeks. So it's here we are a year later. And you guys, so I'm joined by Khanisha Foster, who's the director of Cat in a Hot Tin Roof, Anna Sundberg, who's playing Maggie, the cat, and Charl Brown playing Brick. So you have all been working for a couple of days just on the play. This all started with on Friday, we did a read-through of the available cast came and did a read-through to kick this thing off. And I got to tell you, it actually shifted how I felt about Zoom rehearsals a little bit. That watching you guys, and it was in the conversation afterwards, listening to you talk about what you learned over the course of that reading. I was driving and my kid was in the back seat, and I was just crying as I was listening to you all talk about the little discoveries you made. And look, I don't love it as a way to deliver art, but as a way to extend a process, as a way to start a conversation. You know, we had people from, Khanisha, where are you guys now?
I'm in LA.
Okay.
I'm in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And I'm in Harlem.
Okay. And we had people from Pennsylvania, and I mean, it was all over the country that were working on this thing. And it's exciting to be able to just start cracking it open. So I just want to have a conversation talking about what you all learned, what the experience was like working in this medium for a production that we very much hope happens in person here in Virginia. So yeah, how'd it go?
Great.
It was wonderful.
I loved it.
2 thumbs up, 5 stars.
Yeah.
It was such a gift to be able to be artists without pressure, because as much as rehearsing is my favorite part of being a theater maker. I love rehearsals. But even on day one, when you show up on the first day of school, there's always this looming pressure because it's got to be up in,
TikTok.
3 weeks, something, and you're like, I'm making the right choice now because it's going to be on stage in 3 weeks.
Huh. Yeah.
So this has been like, because of the flexibility and because there's no pressure on it, I feel like all of it just, it's been easier to make, what am I trying to say? Somebody take over.
Discovery, maybe? Like, we've been able to be in a place of total discovery.
Yes.
Yeah.
And freedom. And also too, the luxury that we have now, of course, although this is born out of sort of, tragedy and a hard time that we have to do it in this form, it gave us an actual luxury in that we have extra time than you normally have, especially when mounting a regional production, to actually do the dramaturgy and the table work that sometimes you don't actually get to fully have because of the clicking, the ticking clock. So also without the pressure, like you were just saying, of like having to, okay, keep that, moving on to the next scene, and then not revisiting it again sometimes for a week. We actually got to like live and dive into the act that we were focusing on at this point, and that is a luxury.
We did. We kept using the word luxury because we were
Yeah.
like, normally, we even said a year ago we were ready. We had all done our preparation,
Right.
but I think each of us had a little fear of like, this is not a short play. It's a 3-act play. We have sometimes the same amount of time you get for a 1-act play to prepare the same density of material, this dense material. And you just like, you have a little fear. You're like, let me not waste a minute. Let me use especially as a director, I'm like, let me use every minute well. Let us be productive. Let me support my actors in doing their best work. But because we're able to be in process all week, we focused on Act 1, which is really mostly these two amazing actors. There are people that come in and out, but if you know the play, they're doing all the work and the heavy lifting in Act 1. And we got to make sure that we were like deeply rooted in Act 1, that we understand the beats, we have questions, we have excitement, and that also helps us to make sure the arc is something that we're all on together, that it's not being dictated by one person, but that we've all made active choices in what this play is going to look like, and how is it different with these two brilliant actors versus if anyone else was in the role. And that was really a treat. And I have to say, you both are just so damn good at what you do. Excuse my language, but it was like so beautiful to spend time with you all in this way, and to hear the cast voices on day one, and to really feel like they were in the room with us as we worked.
Right back
That's
at you, Khanisha.
super
And
cool.
you can't do this kind of work unless you have someone like Khanisha leading it. I mean, I don't know. It is about the process. It is about discovery. It is about specificity and knowing everything that's going on. And it's not about just like putting up a big wash of paint color. Yellow. It's not just yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have the opportunity to dive into the text without the worry of the physical life. And I know for myself, who like tends to be more of a physical actor at times, like I got to actually just only focus in on the text. And I think at times when you're concerned with sort of how it's going to play on stage, perhaps even if that's subconsciously, of course, you don't want to enter into it thinking that way, but to actually have table work that truly is just table work because we have no other options is something that is unusual and unique, and maybe something that could be born of this moment that will carry through, that does have some merit, because it actually allows you to have a textual conversation before you get into the actual theatrical presentational aspects of it. And I think that's a gem that we can pull from this experience.
Yeah, it's, and I gotta say, this was just hey, we're looking to put some artists to work. We've got this fantastic cast that we put together. Let's see if we can't. Hey, Khanisha, do you have an idea of how this might go? So outcomes were not at all sort of thought through, or what the implications might be for how we might work in the future, what the way we might think about how to use this. I mean, it's exciting. I was talking to another director who's doing something in this WPA arc we are producing. One of the other pieces is something delightful. I asked the director of Sense and Sensibility to take that cast that we'd just done, Sense and Sensibility, and can you guys do something delightful? You guys, like, that's the extent of my direction for you. And we had a conversation though about wanting to bring the choreographer on because of the question of, is there a way to use this medium and not lose the physicality? So I guess one question I'll have is, like, if you were to revisit this before we got back, is there a version? And Khanisha, we talked early about whether or not there was going to be some lighting in it, and how were we going to? But I would just encourage all of you to think about what ways would be good use of time in this medium, where we can have something that's 3 hours a day from your home in Harlem or in Los Angeles, and that we build something over the course of time. It's pretty exciting.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think at one point, Charl, you were even like, how, I think both of us, maybe all of us were like, is there a time? What if we did this again? What
Yeah.
could this look like? And I mean, to me, what was so glorious about it, I did start talking to my husband about it, who's also an actor, and I was like, this actually makes, because we're always talking about, of course, the financial model versus the creative model versus all the things you have to think about when you're making theater for a living. And this is a way to really meet in a way that budgetarily is a good idea, but also the work is a good idea. Like we actually had time without people picking up their lives and traveling cross country for a longer period of time to dig into work, so that you're actually more ready on day one. You have a relationship, like you two have a relationship built now that you wouldn't have had the first day you meet each other in the room.
It's cool.
A year ago, I was so scared to start because it's a scary play. It's a scary part. I was so nervous, and I had done a lot of preparation on my own, but it was all alone. And you never know on day one what you're showing up to. But now I don't feel scared to start anymore. Because we've got this foundation built. And so day one will be like the good kind of exciting, nervous, and not the I'm scared out of my wits nervous.
Yeah.
It's also been nice and lovely to get to know our director and get to see her process and the way that she works, and to understand her level of support, and how deep that actually is. Thank you very much for being that type of director. And so it also gives us an idea of what the room will be like when we're finally all assembled together in person. So that just alone alleviates the nerves going into any new situation like this, especially with the play like this that is so dense and that requires so much of us. So on that end as well, it's something that is very valuable, and that will serve the process when we get to the full process too.
It's nice. It's almost like maybe I shouldn't bring this up because Woody Allen's canceled, but the Annie Hall, let's get the first kiss out of the way before the kiss happens. That, it's just this is sort of we got the first kiss out of the way.
Yeah.
It was a nice kiss.
Totally. It's so true. I mean, I remember when we were on Zoom the first day and we had the full room, and we had talked about, I sent Tom an email that was like, my dream situation would be that everybody's there on the first day, and I fully expected that to be an impossible.
Well, this was like a week ago. I mean, this was not 3 months ago that we were talking about this. I mean, we really it was like, hey, let's do this thing. Okay, we'll make some calls. All right, here we go. And it happened mostly. It was great,
It was, yeah.
And so often in the regional theater model, for all the reasons you're talking about, and as you're talking about it as a producer, I'm also going, okay, so now we've got schedules that we have to line up, because of course, how can we do this play without the three of you all being in the room, right? But you get a movie offer, and you end up on a TV show, and so what happens, right? So it's hard as a producer to commit this far out, but man, the reward in terms of risk reward thing is really high. So in terms of the talking about the play and what you all learned about the play, you talked a lot about what you've learned about each other, which is fantastic. What did you learn about the play over the last week?
So I'm pretty sure I'm not alone in that I've read this play in my studies, which have now been, a while ago. And I've seen it in production a few times. I think we've all have talked about how we've seen it in production, but I think, I know for myself, and I think I remember for all of us, there were things that that popped out for the first time for me, because I got to sit down and read and look at every word, and we got to discuss it. There were elements of the play that had gone over my head before. For example, I don't know why this is, but we talked about this in our discussions, that I didn't realize that Big Daddy had worked hard and had actually not inherited the estate familially, but he had actually been granted it from his former bosses. That was just something that, this whole time, whenever I think of Cat on Hot Tin Roof, I thought that this was a plantation that was passed down to him. And so then we get to discuss the difference that makes from someone who has worked hard and been given it to him by his old bosses, as opposed to the familial duty that comes along with inheriting a plantation, things like that. There are many assumptions. In Khanisha said so beautifully once, everyone thinks they've seen a Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, but they actually, maybe haven't. There are elements of it that, when you sit down with the text and with the text only, that pop in a different way, I think, and that come off the page in a different way than even seeing it in production.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Khanisha, what did you learn with these two about the play?
Ooh, well, I think because we've talked about all the productions we've seen of it, all the times we've read it, but what is it when we get in the room together? And I think I have seen a lot of fear in Act One because so much happens and two actors are doing so many things, and fear of repetition, fear of what it means to just see two people hold the space. But when we went through beat by beat, we learned they're not repeating themselves. Their wants are not the same. The tactics are not the same. There's this rich depth, and you know this about me, Tom. I believe in love and I believe in joy. And I don't believe in dirges on stage. I don't believe in like slow, sad, just like it's like skip me, miss me on that. But like I believe in like the nuance of people and everything that they bring. And so what I think we found was why these people are great for each other. We found the biggest thing we've talked about all week is this is a play full of first times. Big Daddy has never acted this way he's acting today. This is not just who he is. Brick was like a Puritan, uptight, good boy. He's not a drunk. This is new. This is all new. Maggie was like the good time of every moment. This sharpness that's coming into her is new. Everybody says at some point, I know this, I'm transforming. This is not like me. And so for us, I think the play is missed if you don't pay attention to all the new information that not only the audience is experiencing, but they are experiencing together. But that's for me.
What about you, Anna? You said you did a lot of work before that first rehearsal a year ago, and then you came in. You got to do a little work now. What'd you learn about either the character, the play, the relationship?
Wow, I mean, so much. I don't even really, I'm actually kind of scared of, like, I don't even know how to answer that question really, because I'm still kind of reeling with the processing all of the new information. I do want to say, though, I want to harken back to you saying as a producer, it's hard to, solidify something like a year out. Like, what if these people get movies or whatever? But this is actually a really good thing to get people invested, because like I feel now like I would think twice, 3 times, 4 times before taking that TV show over, like knowing that I have this investment, So I think that's actually this zooming is really, really good. Because when you don't have the idea of what it is in your head, like being super scared showing up the first day because I don't know anybody and I don't know what the experience is going to be like. You don't know what it is, so you can say no to it if you get something else, But when you know who you're going to be working with and what it is, and when you start doing the work, then your heart's in it.
Yeah. Now I'm excited to get on stage with this lady.
I know. Me too. Yeah.
And there's so, I was starting to say before was, the original theater model is so much that you come in, you've got this short time period of time to do this work. So all of the design work and other work has been done before you got there, right? All of the marketing work, all of the scenic costumes, everything has basically been set before you walk in the room. And first day of rehearsal, you get like, here's your costumes, and here's what the change is, and then you take this thing off and it becomes this. And you get an opportunity for you all to really impact the road that the designers take, that everything else, in a way that is I am feeling deeply envious as a director, right? I'm like, I want this right now. I want to have a group of actors that I'm working with right now for a year out, that, so it's exciting. It's super exciting.
I hear the language a lot. Oh, when we get back to normal, when we get back to normal, when we get back to normal. For the love of God, let's not go back to normal, because we can be better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I say hallelujah chorus to that, because I always, as a director, understand the model. I'm like, but I'm working with these brilliant designers, and I haven't heard their voice move through the play. I haven't heard their voices together. I haven't seen their bodies move. I'm guessing. It's a very educated guess. And I have done the work, and I've read the play a million times, and I've got my concept clear, but it is all a guess until you see people move together, have electricity together, work a scene, like work a moment together. Like we've had so many moments in the past couple of days where we've been like, okay, let's break down this moment. What could it mean? This is what I think it means. And somebody, like, we found this water imagery that comes up. We had seen the fire. The fire is like very there, but when we were hearing everything together and talking about it, I mean, I remember we had this one moment where we were talking about the name Brick, and Anna said, everybody's always saying it's because he's a wall, it's because he's a wall, and we don't see him as a wall. None of us. We see him as this vibrant, I mean, if anything, he's full of all this emotion and care, and that's why he's trying to deaden that feeling. And we realized what he's been through. We were saying it's a weight. There's a weight in his soul, and then Anna was like, right, Brick,
Which is why he can't get over the hurdle, why he breaks his ankle. Brick is the weight. It's not that he's a brick wall and he ignores everyone.
Mm-hmm. And from there, it's like you can do anything with that with designers. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's one of the most interesting things for me to discover about Brick, is because whenever I've seen it done, especially he does come across as so stoic and with the wall up, but in here we get to find the love and the passion and the actual drive that he's experiencing, and the emotion that is within him, because he is a man, perhaps a few words in our story doesn't mean that he's not a man. That does not mean that he's a man of few emotions. And what his past has brought onto the stage on this special day is something that we definitely were able to mine and find here with sitting down with the work, without the idea of having to stage it while we're doing that.
Right. So I have a confession to make. I don't know, Khanisha, that I've even said this to you, but I've never seen this play. Yeah, I know. I've seen a couple of different movie versions, right, or filmed version of it. I've never been in the room with this play before, but I thought I knew the play, right? In the same way you were talking about it, right? I thought, well, of course, yeah, and I've got this image of a couple of different actors, a couple of different actresses, and this is what the thing is, and when I sat down and read it, I was like, what is this? What?
Yes.
And was this written like yesterday? Because it feels so contemporary to me in terms of its, I mean, it doesn't feel at all like a classic, right? To me, it feels like it's just people. And it's startling to me how I don't know, alive it is, in a way that I just had this kind of idea of it as being that there's going to be crust to it that I had put on just because I'm a person in this country, right, who grows up with these images, and hearing it. And so I'd read it, right, and had an idea of I think I have an idea of a director who might be good for this. And Khanisha, when I said to you, look, I want you to direct this play, I don't have any idea about how you want to do it, but I want you to do it. And you came back and you talked about how you were intersecting the race with sexuality in this play, and just talk a little bit about that, and whether or not this couple of days has revealed anything about the depth of that.
Yes. What it has revealed is it works. It totally works. I've been on board from day one. I'm like, I know what I want and I know why. And I'll tell you all about that lovely audience in a minute. But I know that it works. So yes, you brought the play to me, and I like when I like people who are wildly themselves. When I'm casting, I'm not the type of director who's looking for someone who can do what everybody else has done and we create the archetype of something and we recreate. I want chemistry that comes from people who bring something uniquely themselves into a room, into a stage. So I knew I wanted that. We got it. All of our actors are awesome. And when you brought me the play, I was like, well, let me read it a few times. Obviously, I'm black and white, and my father was a Black Panther. You all have heard me say this. My mother's family invented bubble wrap. They're like totally different. So I see the world that way. And a lot of like the history of mixedness, the history of identity, the history of people of color, the history of us in classics when we were clearly living full real lives there, but we're taken out of them on stage. Or it's suggested that perhaps us being on stage is like a favor to someone as opposed to people that actually had these lived experiences. So when I read it, I know I told you I was interested in the fact that there was a spike in interracial marriages at the time. It was coming out of like the history of slavery and enslavement, and then bodies that were then still in a way enslaved after slavery was illegal and were still working and indentured. And there was this pocket of time where generations of people were working in the houses who were Black people, and generations of like young white men were growing up in those houses, and there were these love affairs that happened. And that's not to say there's not power in that dynamic. There of course is. And I was interested in that, in like what happens if those two people they get married, and they're the people holding this helming this plantation, and they have these mixed children. And now we have mixed children who have something to live up to that's not totally true in their bodies, So for me, it became, what if Brick chooses Maggie? In many ways, Maggie to me is Big Daddy. Like, she came from nothing. She made herself into something. She's the image of who everybody says he should love, not just in gender now, both in race and in all these different ways. So when he was busy being the perfect son before he lost, well, I can't tell you, before something happens.
No spoilers.
Before something happens. But he was busy being the perfect son. He chose the life he thought he was supposed to choose in the image he thinks he's supposed to be. And we're seeing all of that fall apart now, and what happens with this family in a house. And people will say, I've got a whole research packet, but people, I know it can be hard to remember that there were mixed race couples there, that this was happening. This is truth. In my family at that era, my great grandparents were mixed, interracial couple. So in a way, I'm telling my own story in that kind of history of my own family. But to me, it enhances what's dangerous. It enhances how we try to please people that we love by hiding who we actually are. And that is really interesting and alive to me. I'm grateful that the cast really is there with me on it, and they're just doing beautiful work on it. That's
fantastic. I am so excited to see you guys in real life get together and play around, and we'll take a look. We'll see if we can figure out how we can do this again before we do that, because I just, this is the first time we've done this. We haven't, so for us, Virginia Stage Company, to try to put something like this together. So we're excited that it was something that you all seem to have gotten a lot out of. I'm thrilled about the work that I've witnessed and am hearing about, and I hope that our audience is as well. So thanks, guys, for joining me tonight for the incredible work this week, and we'll see you here in Norfolk.
Yeah. Thank you, Tom. Thank you,
Tom.
All right, thanks, guys.